I'm Martin Keogh, and in this video I'm dancing with Ray Chung at a performance evening at the second Freiburg Contact Festival in 2001. The video was taken by Marina Leonidovna, and Ray and I, our entire score for this evening's performance was dance on, dance off. That's all we knew that we were going to do over the course of this dance. Ray and I had been dancing for over 30 years. Back then, I guess almost 16, 17 years. So we have good dance chemistry. We know each other's bodies pretty well. And we have very different dance styles. Ray always knows where he is in space. And I love to head off to where I don't know where I am in space. The genesis of this particular score is quite funny because a couple of years before this, we had performed at Skylight Studio in Berkeley, California, and we both left the performance really pissed off at each other. I was pissed off at him for abandoning me out there, and he was pissed off at me for being presentational. And for about a year, we didn't dance together. And after that year, we got together and said, you know, it's just way too much fun to dance together to not perform. What can we do? And he said, well, how do we really stick to contact improvisation as we dance? And that's when we came up with this score of dancing on, already having started our contact dance. And the image is that we started it years before, and people are only seeing a slice of it. And then to continue right through till we dance off, so the contact improvisation continues. It was interesting, at this particular night of performance in Freiburg, as is so often the case at these festivals, there were only 2 performances during the evening that were contact improvisation based. The one with Ray and I and one other. So often, the people who are such phenomenal contact improvisation dancers, those ones that at jams I can't take my eyes away because of how much they are in the discovery of the dance. They get on stage in front of an audience and suddenly they lose all their contact faculties. Suddenly they are shaping the space and becoming theatrical, and they even lose their ability to roll the contact point, to fall into the unknown together. And what does it mean to get in front of an audience and actually stick to the form? This thing where the sensation is the seed of what we do next. It perplexes me how often such amazing contact dancers don't trust the form when they get out in front of an audience. Personally, I'm an awful audience member. When I'm watching dance performances, I am so judgmental, and got bumped in the head there. Ray was actually hurting here. His back was hurting. He was actually quite heavy in this piece. You would never tell by watching him. He was such a gorgeous dancer. So when I go to dance performances, I always bring a journal with me, and I have a secondary score, which is whenever I notice that I have been completely absorbed by the performance and I become unself-conscious, I write down what just happened. And in this way, I've been able to articulate much more what my aesthetic is. When I first started dancing in 1980, there was a lot of contact companies. There was Reunion, Men Working, Capoto, Mangrove, Freelance, Contact Works, Freefall, Mirage, Fulcrum. By 1981, all these dance groups had disbanded. Contact kind of went into a fallow period, and when it came back in a big way, it was much more of a jamming and a recreational form. I'm going to run this performance again and keep talking.
Whereas in the early years of the form, a great amount of the dancing was aimed towards performing the form. When it came back later, it was much more about the jamming and investigating what we can do. And it wasn't put as much in front of audiences. And when it was far more likely you would see a great amount of theater attached to it, or improvisational dance, which is so much about shaping the space. And it just isn't performed much, as you see when you go to a festival. Ann Cooper Albright, who teaches contact in a university setting, she says that modern dance and ballet, they go out and they penetrate and they colonize space. And in contact improvisation, it's the other way around. We let space colonize and penetrate us as dancers. It's a much more introverted form. And so putting it in front of an audience is difficult because so much of what this form about is the sensation. And so there's a way in which you have to change the audience's expectation of what they're getting. If you're on a proscenium stage, there's the sense of, if you're in the audience, you want to be penetrated, you want to be colonized. And there's a way in which the dancers need to tune the audience to them. In fact, to not make them audience, but to somehow connect with eyes by being in real time rather than in some kind of performance time that says, hey, we're in here together. And ideally, where the dancers create a conduit between themselves and the audience can feel the decision-making that's going on in the moment. They're not just seeing the result of the decisions, of the improvisational choices, but they actually know that choices are being made. Brenton Cheng says that he's a dancer from San Francisco, that is almost like when we go to the zoo, we don't expect them to perform for us. You go and you observe them going about their business, following their own rules, seeing who they are. And in a way, that's what we're doing when we're dancing contact. We're almost like animals that you're watching from a safari, just seeing how they interact in their own habitat. It's interesting, when we're at the zoo, we do have some expectation. We are more engrossed when the animals have some edge of play or potential violence or sexuality going on. And I think the same thing is true in a contact performance. If there's some possibility of those happening, it gives a little edge to the dancing. For me, a dance that is mostly based on the interaction of sensation, that's the meat and potatoes, that's the main course, is seeing two dancers responding to what's happening in the moment. And on top of that, there's a little bit of spice that can happen. Ray is phenomenally aware of all the edges of the space and how we are composing. Oh, there it is again. Ouch. Oh, I'm okay. He's very aware of the entire frame. And I kind of think of that as the salt, of the spice of salt, just knowing what's going on in the entire space. There's a particular narrative. I think of it as the garlic, which is the relationship. What's happening between the people in the audience. And for me, that's one of the things that I really like to be aware of is what is our relationship? Just the way I lay my hand on my partner, the proximity. And then there's the chili pepper, which is kind of the weather inside, the emotion. It's going to be much different how my hand touches him if I'm feeling loving or angry. Here we've both decided it's time to near end. We both signal each other that the end is near. I don't want to get there too quickly. I very much think that contact improvisation is a performable dance form. You get people out there who trust the form, who have some chemistry in their dancing together, who are willing to enter a state of unknowing, and tune their audience. Amazing things can happen in performance of contact improvisation.